So yeah, all you Katie Joy fans that like to talk about me playing with my hair, I am playing with my hair. It's wet. I just washed it. It's crazy. It's wet. So I have to talk about a few things. I have to do a little housekeeping. We've been talking trash about Katie Joy Paulson for a long time and about, by extension, Todd Paulson. I just have to say, some of the things that are going on in our community lately, Todd Paulson is not entirely wrong in calling us Pitchfork Nation. There's so much splintering and fighting and craziness going on that I have to say that, hey, Saturn, hey, Dance of the Rain, hey, Big Mama, that he has a point. He has a point. And I know for me personally, I've just been blocking anybody that's starting trouble because I don't want any part of that. I'm kind of just done with people in the community fighting, saying nasty things about each other. Oh, you did. Yeah, I'm finally here, Sandy. Good Saturday. Good Saturday. I'm going to rant about something after that, even. So I'm watching people fighting, and I'm not understanding why they're fighting on a lot of this stuff because it's just kind of ridiculous. Um, fight, fight with bad theology. Fight with people who are doing harmful things. Don't fight with each other. Like I said, when people fight with each other, all I'm doing is hitting block. And yeah, it pains me to say that Todd Paulson is right about anything, but he's right about that. The whole darn bunch is falling apart. And it's having some consequences. I'm seeing some people that are really hurt by a lot of things that are being said. And there's somebody chasing me around when I go into various people's live streams that say crap at me too. And I'm just kind of like, oh, girl, no. So today I wanted to rant about my biggest Quiverfull rebellion, a big rebellion that I did when I was at the church. And I didn't even really look at it as rebellion until this week. This week. Those of you that follow me, you know that our car, our ancient 19-year-old Honda CRV, the transmission died. And it died while we were on vacation of all things. We'd gone to Arenal for a couple of days. Arenal to see the volcano, to sit around at the resort, to watch the birds. The car broke down, and that pretty much spoiled everything. So we had to leave it at this mechanic shop where they stored it for us. And we had to go back this week because we sold it. And we got way now. Costa Rican car sales happen, but I'm just going to throw this out there for Costa Rica, people moving to Costa Rica. When you bring a car in or you buy a car, you have to pay taxes on it. Cars here are worth probably 2 to 3 times. Oh, Tracy! Oh, not like a hotel, but I don't have to cook. Oh, Tracy, I'm so sorry you're back in the hospital. Feel better. I hope they figure out where all that blood is going. I know what that's like. I'm still struggling myself with my various infections. Hey, Danielle. So the way it works here is that you buy a car here or you ship one in, you have to pay aduana, which is taxes on it. You have to pay the import fees because cars, they don't make cars here. They import them big time. And we got to look at some pretty strange imports yesterday because we're getting ready to buy a car. One of the places we went was actually a dealership for a couple of Chinese brands. I didn't even know what Chinese cars were like, but they seemed like they're pretty nice cars. And the cost of cars here is so prohibitive, 2 to 3 times what you would normally pay for it in the States. And that's some strange things they were selling. And the difference is, hey, Sweet Bee, you could buy a used SUV for like $20,000, or you can buy a brand new Chinese one for that. And I'm wondering now if the Chinese one would be the way to go, 5-year warranty. But I think we're going to go with the first car we looked at, which was a less expensive one. Well, here's what I have to say. Car sales was my secret rebellion when I was part of Quiverfull. Towards the end, after we had gone through the whole horrific deliverance ministry, or we went through the crazy deliverance ministry, I took a job at a local dealership. Now, when I was in college, I'd worked for about a month selling cars, and a couple months maybe. Short period of time. And I broke my leg, my ankle, and I was on a on crutches. And there was no way that I could continue on the lot there and sell cars. This was back when I was in college. And I loved it. I loved that job. I loved selling cars. I was actually pretty decent at it. So years later, my secret Quiverfull rebellion was I became a car salesman at a Chrysler dealership not far from where I live. They sold Chryslers and Jeep brand vehicles. And I had to go through this lengthy training. I had to get a license to be a car salesman in Virginia. I took the test. I did all of that. And I started selling cars. Now, keep in mind, the Quiverfull church that I went to, it was enormous pressure on women to never work. So here I was having my little secret rebellion. I was working, selling cars, a man's job. So I was violating all gender rules, all of them, before you even got to the women are supposed to stay home, smile, and take care of the children. I'd forgotten a lot about the car salesman things. Your husband is out fixing the transmission in his 2001 Ford pickup truck. It was his father still driving until it can't fix anymore, but he's a mechanic. Oh, yes, yes, yes. Sleepy, that's lucky. My husband is not mechanical at all. He just isn't. And when the transmission went on that Honda, getting a transmission here and getting it fixed is problematic because you could get a transmission in San Jose, you could get them to fix it, but there's no guarantees and warranties like in the States. And I'm not sure I trust him. We have had every other brother trying to fix that transmission for 3 or 4 years now, and it's just been crazy and it hasn't worked. So here was the interesting thing about selling cars. Okay. Again, I liked it. I was pretty good at it. The problem came in is that I was getting crap at church, getting crap from friends, and I was getting crap from the guys that sold the cars or the other salesmen. It was the first time I had ever been in that kind of a competitive environment. It was the first time I was the only woman on staff. And I got to say this, I would not have expected to be treated with more equality back in 1980 in my little southern town in Louisiana, more equality back then than in the 2000s at a car dealership. So the pastor's wife spoke to me about it. And she said she didn't think I should do it. And various other people did too. But like I said, the worst part was the dealership. All the guys working there were awful. How awful were they? It was just a constant free-flowing level of just crap from these guys. Stupid stuff. Like I had to put down a payment on a new Honda CRV just to order one. They'll be ready in 4 months. Big Mama, that's what I'm talking about here too. You can't get them. If you can get them, you can find them. You got to order them way in advance. The Ford dealership had one brand new Ford and it was sold already. They just hadn't picked it up. The guy started telling me a Ford truck was running $85,000. So it was just pretty crazy going through the car dealerships yesterday. And we're thinking about, well, we're considering they had a Korean and they had Chinese cars. And I don't know, I've never seen Chinese cars before, but I got to tell you, I looked at the ones they had and they look like as good of quality as anything I've seen from another manufacturer. So we definitely have thought about that. And it was interesting going through the sales process here, talking to salesmen, because it's nothing like it was in the States. When I worked selling cars, and like I said, I got a bunch of crap from people in the Quiverfull church, but not as much as I got from the guys I worked with. The guys were awful. I had a beautiful leather coat then that was lined with fur, and I had an assigned office. I would put my coat on the coat rack there. I would come back 2 hours later. Somebody would have balled my coat up, my expensive leather coat, and shoved it under a desk or a chair or something. And I said, why did you do that? I said, because I can. And stupid crap. Like I remember one time I was given $100 bill and a list of crap to buy at McDonald's. I went and I got so many McGriddles, so many this. It was the breakfast. for the sales meeting. Well, here's where that gets kind of crazy. I picked up everything. I got all the coffee. I got everything. I brought it back. We started the sales meeting. The sales manager started handing out the food and the coffee, and he handed out everything and then says to me, I didn't get anything for you. Now, he got something for the guy that started after me. He got something for the guy that started a week and a half before me, but everybody else was eating. And he told me that I was not allowed to eat. There were all kinds of things like that that happened every day. The first day that I was on the sales floor and I snagged a customer and actually sold them a car, I walked into the sales manager's office. I asked him for the sales paperwork, which is a stupid Foursquare thing. I'll explain. And he said, you're so smart, you can figure it out on your own. It's like every day it was some piece of anti-feminist rhetoric I had to deal with, and I had to deal with crazy harassment at this place. Excuse me, I've got to turn the AC on. It is hot as you know what, and it's hot as the devil. So I've got to get that on. I forgot to left that over. Oh. And it was frustrating because I was almost it was just relentless. It was relentless every time I turned around. Some guy was saying some horrible thing to me or trying to screw up a sale. I said, oh, Amy, that would be terrible. I thought about that too. That was one of the reasons I was looking at the Chinese cars, because they had these small Chinese SUVs that were selling for $20,000 American dollars, brand new, 5-year warranty. And I certainly think about that. If it was me, I would do that. But because it's not just me, it's that guy over there sleeping too. I have to live with him. So it probably won't be a brand new Chinese car. A so-called Christian friend actually asked me why I was getting a new car. None of your business. I have to feel safe. I was pissed. You would be. Sandy, it was horrible. It was horrible. I quit at like the 3-month mark there because it was constant harassment by the guys. Stupid, dumb harassment. Got a 2021 Hyundai and got a great deal. Go me. Amy, I just drove one of those for the last 2 days and I loved it. I loved driving that. I think it was a Hyundai. And we really loved that. That car was nice. I wouldn't mind buying one, but this one was like a 2018, and I think they said 22,000 was what it would sell for here. So then it becomes, do you buy the unknown Chinese one for $20,000 and get the 5-year warranty, or you buy the used one for $22,000 and get a month warranty? So in spite of all this constant harassment, and I mean constant up there, stupid little petty things, I did manage to sell quite a few cars while I was there. I didn't quite meet quota, but I was damn close. And they give you 6 months to actually build up to quota, because that place, I think quota was like 12 cars a month you had to sell. And it was just weird because it was a time in my life, 3 months, where I was getting major harassment at work and I was getting minor harassment from my friends at church. So anyway, I learned a lot of things there. I learned that there's this thing called the upside down that keeps people enslaved to the whole financing everything thing. So say you buy a Ford, let me make up a Ford fudge packer. I'm making up cars here, used, and you have horrible, horrible credit. So the only credit agency that will let you borrow, the only bank, is going to charge you a large amount of interest. So it drives the cost of the car up even more. So you overpay for this thing and it's used. 2 years later, it breaks down completely and you can't afford to fix it. So you go back into the dealership and say, hey, I want to trade in my Ford fudge packer for a brand new car or a new used car. And you're still owing $10,000 on your loan. Just throwing that number out there. I don't know. And so you go in there, and an unscrupulous salesman will turn around and sell you, say, a Chrysler Catmobile, and take that amount and say that's $16,000. Take the $10,000 from the car you still owe on, roll that in with the new $16,000, and it puts you owing like $26,000 when the car is probably only worth about $12,000. So you have this asset that's not worth anything compared to what your loan value is. And that, my friends, is the upside down. And that is not a way to live your life or to buy cars. I learned all about that, about the dealerships will push certain models because the manufacturer has said, we need to move all these Ford Fairlanes out or whatever. And you're going to have to do this thing. You're going to have to push. Sandy, it's not as long of a wait here. Okay. Here, they actually had some models in San Jose. The problem is here is if you're not living in San Jose, you're going to be dealing with a local, smaller dealership. They're going to have to order it from you from San Jose. My understanding from researching this morning and last night, because I was reading about the Chinese cars, they've only been sold here the last couple of years. The car sales are pretty flat here. They were pretty flat. They were down 39%. When they added the new Chinese cars, which were a lot more reasonably priced, and because they're more reasonably priced, they are moving. I was reading that they're actually selling pretty well. Right now, new cars are hard to find. Yes. I'm getting calls to trade mine in. I'm looking for a wheelchair van, super specific. Oh, Amy. That is crazy. I know it's gone nuts. My mother had an accident in December. Someone rear-ended her and totaled her car. And she wanted to buy a new car right away, of course. Had to go down to the Toyota dealership because she only buys Toyotas. And she was upset. They only had one car on the lot, the kind of sedan she liked. And she had to buy it. That was it. It was that, buy that or wait months. And she couldn't wait months. She had to have a car, just like we kind of have to have a car. So she bought the model, the only one they had on the lot. It had no extras, no nothing. It was just your most basic model. So I'm hearing that new cars are incredibly hard to find in the States as a result. Here, like I said, I think you can get them, but what you can get is kind of limited. One of the places we stopped was a Citroën dealership where they sell the French cars, but I was not interested in that because getting those fixed here would be a nightmare, I think. Whereas the Chinese cars, I'm not sure if you could get those fixed. They had some odd Korean ones too that I've never seen before, besides the Hyundai or the Nissan or some of the other ones. Well, Nissan's Japanese, I guess. And we're looking at buying an older Nissan Xterra. We saw one that is really top of the list right now. I think that's what we're going to end up with. The problem is, hey, Nitwit, you don't want to buy a car here that's hard to get parts for or hard to work on. And if you decide to move back to the States, you're going to have to sell it. So it's got to be something that's reasonably priced that you can move in a hurry. One of the places we looked at, the Ford dealership, they had a lot. There was all these consignment cars they'd taken from Americans and Europeans and such. And they had crazy ones there. They had a giant Jeep type vehicle. I forgot what even the type was. And it was older, and the guy was insisting it would only take $17,000. Well, guess what? It is set on the lot like 5-6 years. It's set on the lot so long that the battery doesn't work. The cloth top is rotted through in places. It's just falling apart, sitting there while the person is probably back in the States, and they're insisting that they get $17,000 for it. So I don't know what's going to happen with all these car shortages worldwide. And the prices of everything just keep going up and up and up here. It's just insane. Oh, so we're going to have to buy. And it's not going to be a pleasant experience. So far, this whole time has been kind of rough between that. And this was all happening as I was waiting on the verdict in the Josh Duggar trial, which, just happened, and I was mad and ranting the day that the verdict for Josh was read, because I really wanted him to do every moment of those 20 years that was potential. And they didn't do that to him. They gave him a middle sentence, like Emily D. Baker said they would. She was right on that. But they did put the harshest release things I've ever seen. Recommendation, well, not recommendations, the harshest release rules the judge put on there. Like, he's going to be on probation for 20 years. I couldn't believe that. 20 years? That's a long time to be on probation. If they catch you with any porn whatsoever, right back to the pokey. He's going to jail again. He can't smoke marijuana, can't buy it, can't do anything with it. And I was kind of surprised by that. Josh was ticked because he couldn't ever watch it. I don't know if he was ticked over that or not, but I do know that the two portions of the release data that the judge put together, that the lawyers fought the hardest were no smoking marijuana, which I was like, is he a pothead? And the no watching porn. Those were the two that his people immediately raised an objection to and were shot down by the judge. Any device that he has, like a smartphone or a tablet or a computer, they have the right to inspect it at any time. They have the right to give him lie detector tests. There's a number of things on there. How good are probation officers to check up on him? They better not relegate that to his, yeah, I know. I kind of keep he would do the middle point with high probation. I laughed when he didn't get 40, which is what, oh yeah. Sweet B, they said ahead of time he was not going to get 40. They were only going to sentence him on the one charge. They weren't going to sentence him on all of that. I was surprised too they didn't have the 5-year kickers on there for high offenses, because he hit that. He had over 600 images on his devices. They could have thrown the kicker in there and given him more years, but they chose not to. But the probation rules are just pretty stringent, and I can kind of see it, but I'm hoping that the probation officers stay on top of this. I hope that they inspect his work things, because he knows darn good and well that all sales of cars now involve computers. And that's one thing I want to say about Costa Rica that they need to do in the US. It's actually easier to sell a car here and buy a car, because the titles of the cars are stored on a nationwide database. There's none of this going to DMV. There's none of this going to, whatever your division of motor vehicles is where you live. It's nationwide. So you just show up, the lawyer pulls it off. The lawyer draws up the paperwork, you sign it, you pay the lawyer, and you don't even pay aduana separately, pay all the aduana stuff to the lawyer, and away you go in a few minutes. It doesn't take long at all. It was considered a first-time offense, and I kind of went back and forth on whether I thought they would even give him much. Hey, Karma Kid, I was thinking they were going to give him maybe five years at first, and then I started thinking, well, no, look, the prosecution has asked for 20. He'll be a registered S. Oh, yes, he will. And that will stay with him forever. He'll never be able to get that to lift. And that's a huge victory, because any place he moves, any place he goes to work, any place he goes to church, can look that up and determine what his offender status is. And he's not allowed to be around children without supervision, even his own children. That was the surprising thing for me. I expected them to exempt his children from that rule, but they did not. So that was kind of interesting and kind of weird, I thought, that they would do that. And that's going to be a lot of different places where you would go. You might be around children. We were talking about that, my husband and I, we were driving the other day. We were talking about how it's going to be hard. Josh might go to church and there might be a ton of children. He might walk in the grocery store and there'd be a ton of children around him. So it's going to be hard for him to stay away. but he is a registered offender now. So people will be shunning him for that. He can't see his own children, or can he? He can see them. He can see them, Big Mama, but he has to see his children only with supervision. He can't be alone with his own children, is the way I was reading it, and everybody else is talking about it. If he's with his children, it has to be with somebody else. And I don't know if Anna would would be considered adequate supervision or not. We'll have to wait and see what happens once he gets released. And it's federal, so he'll have to do 85% before he's paroled out. And we know how Anna would supervise. Exactly, Gamey. I'm curious. There's been nothing about it anywhere. I'm curious if, yeah, can't live near schools or daycare. So I hope Anna dries up before he gets out. Nitwit, if he gets out in, say, roughly 10 years, she will be like in her early 40s. She should be either dried up or damn close to it. Conceiving after 40 is difficult at best. And I think that I think it would be a disaster if they had more children, because he would have a potential victim pool right in his own home. I'm curious as to if they did a forensic on the kids, a forensic exam with DHS now, because before his conviction, they fought against them doing any kind of exam with the kids. Well, now they have every right to do so. Now that he's a convicted offender, they can actually request, yes, we want to examine your children now to make sure that they were not victims in any of this. And I feel bad for the children and Anna. First of all, this is something beyond Anna's, what she knows how to deal with. She was raised by the Kellers. This is not something in her wheelhouse. This is not what she expected when she married the righteous Duggar boy. I remember back in the early days of the show, when it was right around the same time I was leaving, shortly after my new car rebellion. And where was I going with this? Oh, I'd watch a show and snark on it with everybody else, the original Free Ginger, and at Television Without Pity. That's how old this is. And we would all call Josh the Smugger Duggar because he was so smug and self-righteous. And he's still that way. When I see that mug shot, I just feel like smacking him in the head, even though I know realistically he's probably flying on Xanax when they brought him in that day. I know if I had to turn myself into the cops or something that seriously, I would be doing Xanax too. So now Anna has to decide what she's going to do with the rest of her life. And people keep talking about this. Leave, Anna, leave. Here's the thing about Quiverfull, and I keep saying this again and again and again. I'm going to keep saying it. Leaving takes a long time. It takes a mindset change that is unbelievable. Like I said, for me to even think about selling cars was a huge thing. It was something just kind of out there. I had to get to that point where I could do it, even though it was only 3 months worth that I did that with those crazy, awful guys who were harassing me stupid. And as I said, gender roles were very strict in my old church. So here I was going into a place that had no respect for any kind of gender roles, that thought women were useless as a woman. And I was getting it from work. I was getting it from home. So for me to make that mind change and get out, it actually started back around the time of the deliverance ministry. It had its seeds then. And as I continued on and did crazier and crazier things, it's going to take Anna Duggar doing the same thing. It's going to take her deciding that she's just had enough. She needs to do something with how hard it's going to be for her to raise those kids because she, until this episode, was used to the strict gender roles of Quiverfull. She was used to a man taking care of X, Y, and Z. And now she's having to do all that. Now, at least she's living on the compound with Jim Bob Duggar, and that is both bad and good. It means those kids won't starve, but it also means that he will keep her under his thumb as long as he can. So that's my take. That's my take. I'm selling cars. I'm not selling cars now. I'm buying them. And I'm talking to the salesman. I'm asking them 50 trillion questions about everything. And thinking about Josh and his used car lot and what he's likely going through. I'm waiting to hear exactly which prison they end up sending him to. I know 2 were mentioned by the judge as possibles. I'm sure the Duggars will file some type of hardship claim if they try to put him out of Arkansas. But you never know. You never know. It really is too much going on right now for us to be able to parse any more out of it. Okay, I am going to go ahead and go because my mind is rambling. I've got 10 trillion. Yeah, the one in Texas is in the Dallas area, actually. Trying to think what the name of that was. It was Texas. There's one near Dallas that has a sex offender treatment center. And I think that Sandy, her family are and they aren't around. They live in Florida, her family does. And many of her married siblings live not too far from the parents, which is quite a ways from Arkansas. I know her brother, who's married to Jill Rodriguez's daughter, lives there in Florida with his parents. North Florida, I think it is. They live near the parents. David and Priscilla, they live near the parents. Some of the other ones do as well. It's a big family, a lot of kids. And I would feel a whole lot less frightened for Anna if she was living near her family. Oh, thank you, Nitwit. I'm kind of brain dead today, so I'm not really, yeah. I may at some point talk more about the car sales, because it's pretty crazy, all the things that you go through there and the things that they do and the tricks and the mind games they play and all of that. And it's pretty interesting because everything is negotiable there, unlike Quiverfull, where everything is black and white and rules. In car dealerships, a lot of things are completely open to interpretation, including how much you're willing to pay. So there is that. Okay, you guys, I'm going to go ahead and go. I actually have like 10 trillion loads of laundry that I have to do. My bed's all pulled apart. We came back to water in the laundry room, so I have to figure out if the hot water tank is leaking, if somebody knocks something over or what, but got to deal with that too. So I've got a full day. Love you guys. Take care. Try not to take in anybody's fighting. I mean, I hate to say I agree with Todd Paulson on a damn thing, but right now I'm agreeing with him about the community. And like I said, I started calling us Pitchfork Nation because some of us are very pitchforky. And it's actually almost comical watching the self-appointed punishers try to run around and run narrative on everybody. Love you guys.